Buckle up everyone, because if you've ever wondered how much a flight attendant gets paid, and especially for Emirates Airlines, I'm about to spill the salary secrets and in so much detail. The breakdown of a flight attendant salary is not just one simple number that we get paid. There is so much more to it, from flying pay to meal layover allowances to bonuses from the company. And maybe this will help you figure out if the flight attendant wage is actually worth it. Or maybe you don't care about the money and the people, the travel, the experience is worth more than any amount of money. Either way, I really wanted to know all these details before I got the job at Emirates. And the cabin crew salary breakdown on the Emirates career page just did not make sense to me, and that's even coming from working from another airline. So let me start with exactly that. On the Emirates career page, and if you don't know what that is the page that you will need to access if you're going to apply for the job as Emirates Cabin Crew. Anyway, it has a section with details about the job as being cabin crew and a very small section about the salary breakdown. Here it shows the Emirates Cabin Crew basic salary, which is currently 4,835 AED a month. But keep in mind, this is proven to go up every financial year. And if you didn't know, AED is the United Arab Emirates dirham. It also shows something called your flying pay. This is an extra hourly rate that Emirates pays you on top of your base salary. Emirates' flying pay is 66 dirham 30 per hour. Now, taking that into account, it also states the average wage that you will earn every month at Emirates, which is currently at 10,802 dirham a month. It also has some other currencies written there, but for all my Aussie followers, that's just under $4,500. Now, coming from Australia, this wage was actually about the same as what I was getting at my previous airline, and that's after tax. So for me, Emirates wasn't really about the money. I personally wanted to do it because of all the different destinations Emirates flies to compared to my old airline, and it actually was the push that I needed to be able to live in a different country. I will say this, when you think about it, Emirates really sets you up. They move you to Dubai, they pay for your flights here, they pay for your visa and your sponsorship. They're free accommodation with all the bills covered, and you have a job instantly. And can I just say, not just any job, a job that gets you to travel all over the world and get paid for it. But don't get me wrong, the thought of actually moving overseas, even if the job is all set up, it is so hard. And it really felt like to me that you were going to begin a whole new life. But I still really believe that Emirates is the best way to do it. It kind of creates a buffer for you that they get to deal with all the hardest parts of like moving to a new country. Now, hearing all these numbers about the salary, it can be pretty exciting. So let me break it all down and explain to you exactly how it works. So your base salary, which is what we said before, is the salary you get as cabin crew in economy, which if you didn't know, when you get the job, this is where you will be. You can eventually move up different classes over time, but that does take time. Like any other job, you have to start from the bottom and work your way up. And as you move to business first, supervisor role or purser, of course, your base salary and your wage goes up. The thing about your base salary though, it will never change. This is the standard amount you'll get paid every month, even if you did zero work. This is also what you'll get on your annual leave and your sick days. It's also the same as your training days or days on the ground, and I'll get to this very shortly because I personally was not prepared financially for this. The thing that actually makes the money worth it being a flight attendant is not the base salary, but the flying hour pay and the meal allowance pay. So, like I said, when you look at that Emirates career page, it tells you one of these allowances, and that's called your flying pay. And you might be wondering, when do we get this flying pay? Basically, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's when we're flying. Now, with this, there's a few smart things that are really in favor of the airlines here. Basically, if anything happens on the ground, we're not getting any pay at all. So we could have hours, literally hours on the ground because of some technical issue or because of passengers, and we get nothing. Sure, we're still getting our base wage, and that will never change no matter what. And leading on from that, it does disadvantage crew who call sick. So when you miss a flight due to any illness, you do not get that flying pay or any of the other allowances, and you're only getting that base wage, which if you're at any other full-time job, if you go sick, you get your full day's wage. Even at my old airline Virgin, they used to add an extra amount onto sick days and annual leave days because you're missing this flying pay. Okay, so now that I've explained the whole flying pay situation, I'll explain the meal allowances. So basically, when we fly to a destination we're staying in, which is also known as a layover, which just for your information is opposed to a destination we fly to and back from in one day. That is known as a turnaround. Alright, so back to the layovers. As a flight attendant, you'll get paid meal allowances for whatever meals fall into the time period of your stay. So how it works, it goes off the standard time of arrival, which is from when you land, and the standard time of departure, so when you take off. But it will take into account if you're delayed going out. amount. So at Emirates, they've classed certain times to be these meal periods. Basically, for breakfast, it's 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Lunch is 12:30 to 14:30, and dinner is 19:30 to 21:30. So for example, if you're landing into a destination at 1300 and the next day you're leaving at 1400, you're getting lunch and dinner on the first day and breakfast and lunch before you leave on the second day. Now, the other thing is the amount of those meal allowances changes depending on the location you're in. Usually for Emirates though, the one thing they do very consistently is the breakfast meal allowances will always be the same amount as the buffet breakfast is at the hotel we stay at, which I think is super fair. Dinner though is always the highest meal allowance we get, and this is usually because dinner is the biggest meal they will have for the day. So it makes sense that it's the most expensive. Something you might find super interesting, and I'm not sure that you've thought about, is with the allowances changing depending on the locations, places like Switzerland and America are the ones with the highest layover allowances. This is because, as you can imagine, the cost of living in these locations is quite high and food is very expensive. Seeing as Switzerland has some of the highest cost of living and the highest layover allowances as cabin crew, I have a little personal hack and pretty much just never spend any money on food on these layovers. This can affect your wage a lot, but this also depends on what you want to do with your money. Some crew love spending their entire meal allowances while they're out and enjoying their layovers. Some people, like me, spend it on tours and cheap food so you can budget accordingly and make the most of your layovers. And then there's also crew that just love to eat every meal at the hotel and spend all their allowance on that. But hey, it's totally up to you. For me though, I really did want to find a balance and so that I can eventually walk away with some money at the end of Emirates. Now, speaking of life after Emirates, I actually wanted to share with you something that has really helped me develop my skills outside of my aviation career. And this is where Skillshare comes in, who is actually the sponsor of my video today. Skillshare is the largest online platform for learning something creative with thousands of classes from people who are killing it in the creative industry. So whether it's things like photography, graphic design, even music, or maybe you have the same passion as me in content creating and social media, Skillshare give you access to so many classes and you can access them at any time, meaning you can learn at your own pace, which is something really important to me because I travel so much, I can't really be enrolling in courses that have set times and dates to attend them. Something else that has really helped me is Skillshare has specific classes for social media marketing and making money with your creative passions, like this one right here from Maggie Stara called Powerful Social Media Marketing from Beginner to Advanced, which meant I could actually make my hobby a side hustle. Also, Skillshare give you access to all of their classes, meaning you could just go and try different creative things, which is so cool because anywhere else that would cost you an absolute fortune. For me though, Skillshare really helped me take the next steps in the creative industry and gave me the confidence that trying something different might just be the best thing you could ever do. So let me help you by giving the first 500 people to use my link in the description below a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Honestly, what are you waiting for? Go check it out. But for now, let's get back to how much you really make as Emirates Cabin Crew. Now, funnily enough, I was able to get 2 Zurich layovers in my last top bid. And if you're not sure what top bid is, that is for another entire video. But basically, you get this preference being flight attendants, and you can kind of choose where you want to have a layover. It doesn't always work, trust me, but I feel so grateful that I was able to get these layovers because you may not have thought about it, but a lot of crew know how good these layover allowances are. And if you're going to fly somewhere in Europe and you're going to get paid a lot more to be in Switzerland, and if you think about it, you're going to spend the same amount of time away, the same amount of time flying, and it's a cool destination, why wouldn't you want to go there instead? So just for your reference, here is my meal allowances for my 24-hour layover in Zurich compared to my 24-hour layover in Munich, which are relatively similar flight times and the exact same amount of time away from home, and it's a difference of 300 dirham. Now, one of the biggest meal allowances I've ever received in my entire life was actually for my layover in Miami, Florida. And even though our allowances in the US are quite high, that wasn't the main reason. The reason I got paid so heavily is because it was a 52-hour layover. Pretty much the longer we are in the destination, the more meals that fall into our time away, which means we're paid for more meal allowances. So for my Miami layover, I got 1,208 dirham. And this is not even with flying pay, which is something I want to add on here because the flight to Miami is about 15 hours there and 15 hours back. That's a total of 30 flying hours. Now, if you remember the amount I told you earlier, it was 66 dirham 30. So if you times that by 30 hours, you're looking at 1,989 dirham. So with those three numbers added together, you're almost doubling your base wage. So can you see just how many different factors play into your salary? And personally, I think it's kind of crazy that you could have all these people in the same position but getting such different pays. But I would love to know, is this a little bit more complicated than you thought? And what do you think about this whole breakdown of all the different allowances and the flying pay? Do you think flight attendants should actually have their wage changed to like a normal full-time job? And actually, I'd love to know if there's any other flight attendants or ex-flighties watching this. What is your pay like at your airline and how does it compare to Emirates? But back to something I touched on a little bit earlier. When I started the job at Emirates, I was not financially prepared for training college's wage. Basically, even though I was coming from another airline and I knew we were not going to get flying or meal allowances because we physically weren't flying, we were on the ground, there was still a few other things that I was not prepared for. Firstly, this was actually my first job that I was getting paid monthly for. So all my other jobs were either fortnightly or weekly. And this might sound kind of silly, but I just didn't know how to budget for that. I found groceries felt quite expensive and I didn't live near any large supermarkets, so taxis were actually starting to add up. Even buying extra things for my room so I could decorate it to make it feel more like a home, including spare bed sheets. And I even had a few things I had to buy because I didn't have the right pants and shoes for training college. Also something else you might have thought about if you wanted to go out on the weekends because you're in a new city with new people, that starts to add up even more. And just to top it all off, Emirates actually withhold 333 dirham every month for the first year you're employed with them. Now, it actually makes sense because the reason they do this is to cover their costs for people that leave after they do the training. Basically, there are so many people that get the job as Emirates cabin crew and then leave within the first year, or even worse, leave within the first month. And seeing as Emirates has one of the best training facilities in the world with some of the best trainers, they are forking out a fortune to pay for everyone to be trained. And for them to spend all this money on hiring and training the crew just for them to leave before they even fly, I honestly get it. It's a bit of a safety net. But in saying that, if you do leave within the first year, you will have to pay back the remainder that you would have had to pay until the first year was up. But good news, if you stick around till after 1 year, you'll actually get paid that back to you when you do leave. So it's only really that first year that you have a little bit of pressure on you to stay. But I don't know why you wouldn't, because you spend all that time, energy, and money moving overseas. You could at least stay for 1 year to really feel like you had the full experience. But I hope some of you are watching this and thinking, what on earth, because you are dreaming to join Emirates. And this is exactly why I made a step-by-step guide to getting the job. And even though it seems like Emirates is always hiring, they are super particular with who they hire. So if you want to check it out, I'm going to put a link in the description below. It's going to run you through everything you need to know for getting the job as a flight attendant. It also includes my cover letter, photos, and exact resume that I used for my application. It even runs you through some of my interview questions that I got on my assessment day. Because being cabin crew just gives us so much opportunity at life and to experience and travel the world. Go check it out, and I'd love to know even in the comments below if this is something that has really helped you on your flying journey. But back to the Emirates Training College salary that I struggled with. Basically, you're in there for 2 months that you're getting this base salary. And it wasn't actually until nearly 3 months, because the pay's at the end of the following month, that I got my first real wage with my flying allowances and meal allowances. And funnily enough, it was pretty much the exact average that's on the Emirates career page. Now, my salary roughly stayed around that until I got the US visa. So when I first started with Emirates, I actually had no idea that you don't get given a US visa straight away and that not everyone flies to the US. So with only some crew getting the US visa, you're pretty much guaranteed to always have a US flight in your month's roster. And of course, the US is some of our longest flights and our longest layovers. So from what I explained earlier, this really affects our salary. And I will say this, the long haul flights and flying to the US is hard work. But I honestly really do like the long haul flights. I also like long layovers. I feel like I can actually get to go out and see the city and actually have enough rest for my flight home. And there's also the benefits of these trips giving us the most money. Also, another really cool thing that I like about the long haul flights is we get the crew rest, which is only actually on flights longer than 9.5 hours. So coming from Australia, where the US is so far away, I was more than happy to get the working visa. Some crew are not as happy as I am about it, because when you do get the US visa, it tends to mean you don't fly to Australia anymore. Not saying you can't get it at all, but with what I said about only some crew getting the US visa, whereas everyone can fly to Australia, it just makes it a little bit harder for you to get rostered those Australian flights. Now that I've ran you through all the basics of the Emirates salary and you kind of have an understanding of how it all works, I'm also going to tell you some of the extra allowances that we can get as Emirates cabin crew. And one of these is the live out allowance and the transport allowance. And it's exactly what it sounds like. When you opt out of living in the crew accommodation, you get a substituted allowance from the airline. They do only provide these allowances under certain circumstances, so keep that in mind. You don't just get this instantly, and it is a little bit hard to get. And for your reference, the live out allowance is 5,255 dirham a month, and the transport allowance is 560. You can actually opt out of this transport allowance, which some crew do if they end up living right near a crew accommodation. Because if you do get that allowance, you're actually not allowed to take any of the company buses ever. Now, there's also a few other things that are extra in the salaries Emirates cabin crew, and that is bonuses. Having never worked for such a big airline, this is something I have not experienced before. Every year, the company assesses how much money they make in profit and how much they can give extra to their staff. Over the previous years, specifically with COVID, they had no bonuses. But after COVID, the aviation and travel scene has bounced back literally better than ever, with Emirates making crazy numbers like 10 billion in profit, not revenue, profit. I was so lucky to be a part of the cabin crew who got given a bonus for their work over the financial year. And for me, it was a crazy 18,552 dirham. And for reference, my amount was actually prorated because I hadn't been employed for the whole financial year, with the bonus actually being 24 weeks of the base salary. It's really cool to know that you have the possibility to earn bonuses like this when you work for one of the top airlines in the world. The contracts at Emirates, though, are 3 years no matter what position you're in, so whether it's purser, supervisor, business class, first class, or economy. And like I mentioned before, you can leave earlier, but you might need to pay back a little bit of cash. But if you do make it all the way through for the 3-year contract, you actually get an added bonus at the end of 10,000 dirham. This is pretty much just incentive to get the crew to finish one contract with the company, with you being able to choose if you did want to continue or you can leave. But that's also the same for the company. There are situations where the company won't renew your contract, and if you're relying on this, you can get caught out in a really tough situation. This usually only happens if you have something on your file or in worst case scenario situations like COVID. Touch wood, that will never happen again. Crazily though, the oldest you can work to at Emirates is 50 years old. Most of the time it is pursers, and by the time you get to that contract renewal just past 50, that's when they won't continue. But I think if you know this getting into the job, you can really prepare for this and maybe set a goal to retire at 50 instead. But this does bring me to the end of the video, and I know there's been a lot of information here. As always, I appreciate every single one of you and all the love and support I get on this channel. It really does mean the world to me to be able to answer some of these really tough questions that some of you may have, or just give you insight into what it is being cabin crew. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment below, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you again very soon.